Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight for today, November 30th, 2021. I'm your host, Tristan. This is, gosh, how many of these do we have left? Four. Four Step Back Tonights. I'm your host, Tristan. I run a YouTube channel called Step Back, which you can find at stepbackhistory.com. And I am also I'm also the co-host of the podcast It's Probably Not Aliens, which is a podcast where we talk about ancient aliens and stuff like that. That's available at probsnotaliens.com. I stream on Mondays and Tuesdays. Mondays from 12 till 2, and Tuesdays from 7 till 9. All of that is Eastern time. Yeah. What more can I say? I go by he, him pronouns. And if you wish to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. You could use your Amazon Prime membership, if you have one, to give a free Twitch Prime subscription, which helps me out and is just baked into your membership with Amazon Prime. So, you know, get the most juice out of it. And, yeah. If you have some extra pocket change, I also welcome things like subscriptions, bits, super chats. All those things are appreciated and welcome. Podcast is pretty good if you ask me. Well, thank you. I also think so. It's funny because we have a huge backlog of recordings, and the amount of time between when we record and when I get to actually listen to the episode when it comes out, it's long enough that I've forgotten enough that I can actually listen to it almost like I'm just a listener. And I'm having a very good time listening to it, even if I'm just primarily listening to my own voice, which is kind of weird. But you know. Hey, Jack the Ignatic, thank you for the subscription. Much appreciated. Oh man, the picture's still my dad dabbing. That's sweet. You have a backlog to listen to. Yes, you do. Looking like we can do a full stream today. I hope so. I don't know what was going on with my internet. Because, like, my wife has a meeting at noon. She had one on Monday, but she has one every Monday at noon. So she's done multiple streams in a row, or I've done like many streams with her with no problem, and yet this one caused a problem. I don't know what the deal was. Anyways, my latest video is on Project CyberSyn. It's available now. It's been out for a couple weeks. I hope that people like it, the people who have watched it. It's not doing super great, so if you can get an opportunity to watch it, obviously much appreciated. And my next video, which should be coming out in December, is on Kyle Rittenhouse and the how did he get away with murder exactly? We're gonna dig all the way down to the fucking nuts and bolts of the political economy and history that led to Kyle Rittenhouse getting away with murder this month. Yeah. I also collect questions for future streams. So if you want to submit a question, I'll get that to you right now. Put that link in the chat. And of course, if there are any new people here in the chat, please make yourself known, because we've got a very lively and fun community that welcomes everybody. So please say hello, and yeah, welcome to the stream. I just realized I put on this shirt. So this shirt I thought I had ruined because on Thanksgiving I got a bunch of turkey fat on it when I was carving the turkey. And I thought, you know, stained forever, gone. But no. No, it looks like it's actually finally all washed out, which is nice. All right. I just started learning about Yugoslavia. Any recommendations for books? Not really. I don't really know anything about Yugoslavia, so your guess is as good as mine. I'm better, what's it called? The field that I know a lot about is American history. And so if you have an American history topic, I'll have a lot more that I could say about that. But, yeah. Gotta love Critical Role. Yeah, for real. Good show. Fun show. Or what's it called? Good show. Funny people. Good stories. Always just happening. Yeah. I'm a fan. I'm not like overly like what's it called? Parasocially invested in those people, but they make a fun show. Who is your favorite American president? I know how pointless the question is, but I'm curious. See, none of them are very good. So sometimes I think that the best ones are like the presidents who didn't do very much. Like, tend to think of people like Jimmy Carter, but Jimmy Carter, you know, did some fucked up things when it came to like kind of the bringing of neoliberalism to America and like union busting and things like that. So then there's a bunch of nameless 19th century presidents who really had a very small impact on the country. And they were basically, their capacity to do damage was just mitigated heavily. And so maybe, just maybe, it's got to be one of those presidents, because at least they didn't do as much damage as many of the presidents in the post-imperial era. So you think about it like James Buchanan or something like that, or John Quincy Adams. Really could the amount of suffering and damage that some president like that could do is very limited compared to like even like a president like Joe Biden or Barack Obama, who are now the heads of a grand global empire that basically goes to war forever. Someone just pointed out in chat that the best answer would be William Henry Harrison, who I agree. Okay, yeah, you know what? That's the good answer. William Henry Harrison is the best president who ever, the best American president. Why? Because he made a 4-hour speech on his inaugural address, caught pneumonia, and died 3 weeks into office. That's the best president. And every election year, I always just kind of come together and say, wow, unfortunately, it seems that we are still going to have presidents. That sucks. He's also the only president from Indiana, which I think is very fun, because my wife is from Indiana. And so, and Indiana, which is basically the Florida of the Midwest, and is just like a place that is just very sad. Indiana's very sad in a lot of ways. And so the fact that their only president is somebody who died 3 weeks into office is just perfect. Have I seen Bad Empanada's new video on Manifest Destiny and Lebensraum? No, but I could imagine what he has to say. I think there's a question about it later on in the stream, though. So if you hang tight, we'll get to it. Because I think somebody asked for me to have an opinion about this video. Maybe we'll watch it. I don't know. It depends on the time. Alright, let's get into the news, shall we? So the first thing that's like on everybody's minds, and it's just the thing that's being talked about right now a lot, is the Omicron variant. So that's fun. The Omicron variant is the new COVID variant of concern that the CDC is reporting on, and that the World Health Organization is trying to do. Why did my wife move to Canada? She moved to Canada to go to grad school. She did her PhD at the same university I did. Chris Cuomo got fired? Like, what's it called? The governor? Or the journalist? Oh, yeah. Okay. CNN has actually suspended Chris Cuomo because he helped his brother, who was the governor. Oh, that's wild. And now he's got some sexual harassment stuff coming out. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Can't say I'm surprised. All right, but we do need to talk about the Omicron variant and also what it says about where we are on COVID and all that kind of stuff. I think that that's key to discuss a little bit because Andrew Cuomo resigned back in August. Oh my God, I'm definitely losing my mind then. Yeah, any man being a creep should not be a surprise, especially rich men and positions of power. It's just a bad vibe all around. Maybe we shouldn't have positions of power, but that's just me. Anyways, let's go to this Wikipedia page and talk a little bit about. Oh my goodness. Okay. 1 second. I just gotta fix my thing. There we go. So let's talk about the Omicron variant, shall we? So the Omicron variant showing up in South Africa, but already seems to be pretty much all over the world at this point. Causes COVID. Variant was reported to the WHO on the 24th of November 2021, so just 6 days ago. And already it's being spotted everywhere, so it's probably already been making the rounds. So it's probably everywhere at this point. The thing that stands out about it is that it's unusually large in mutations, many of which are novel and several of which affect the spike protein that most vaccine targeting is targeting at the time of the discovery. This level of variation has led to concerns regarding transmissibility, immune system evasion, and vaccine resistance. As a result, the variant was quickly designated of concern, and travel restrictions have been introduced by several countries to limit international spread. So this is the thing. This is everybody's fucking panicking right now. Everyone's freaking out. But here's the thing: is that there's a lot of heat and not a lot of fire, a lot of sizzle and not a lot of steak with Omicron at this point. So let's get a little bit into this is all DNA shit, stuff that I have no idea. But the thing is, now, this is what I think is interesting, is that there's here, chair of the South African Medical Association says the variant in patients, first encountered the variant in patients who had fatigue, aches and pains, but not cough or change in sense of smell or taste. And doctors are reporting that Omicron has mild symptoms with no increase in hospital admissions. So that is interesting. And I think that this says quite a lot about some interesting stuff about how Omicron is sort of an essential part of the pandemic. And honestly, something if this part about Omicron's symptoms pans out, it might be the beginning of what of the end of the pandemic, and I'll explain in a second. So, first of all, we should just talk about the fact that we don't know a lot. So, a lot of what's going on is wild speculation. Anything anybody says about Omicron at this point is just completely wild. It's completely speculation and hypotheses from educated people, but nonetheless. We've known about it for less than a week, so it's already, in the work. And that is so that's the thing. So any scaremongering you're hearing right now is either a runaway media or hypotheses from scientists. But here is why this could actually be a good thing. So I'm not kidding on that. So let's get into this. So we have to kind of discuss why I'm saying that. We have to go back to 1918. The Spanish flu of the pandemic of 1918-1919 was very deadly. The bird flu, I think it was an avian flu, killed millions of people. It burned through the entire planet, and it was very, very deadly, killing a lot of young people. Basically, a war had to end because of it, which is a part of the World War I story that a lot of World War I stories don't bring up, is that while there are different forces bringing its end, the pandemic definitely drove a lot of the need to bring it end. But here's the thing. In 1919, the pandemic ended, and we don't talk about why that happened. It's not like the world got together and had developed a vaccine. It's not like we eradicated H1N1 from the world. But what we did do, or what happened, was that the avian flu that caused the Spanish flu mutated into a more benign form, and it just became part of the regular flu seasons of our daily life, because the Spanish flu particularly evolved in the trenches of World War I, where in order to go to spread to immunocompromised populations, i.e. people who are injured and stuff like that, soldiers had to be extremely ill, to the point where they had to be hospitalized, which meant that there was a selection pressure for the virus to be very, very aggressive and deadly to young people specifically, because if a young person got so sick that they could not be on the front lines anymore and they had to get sent to the hospital, then it would spread to all the other ones. Is H1N1 swine flu, or am I misremembering? I might be misremembering. I don't remember. I guess I shouldn't vosh this. I should actually look this up to make sure that I am being accurate. Because even on little things like that. So what kind of... Okay, yeah. Let's see. It was an H1N1. Okay, so it is an influenza A virus, H1N1. I thought it was a... All right, so here's the bit. Where I was wrong is that it's not a bird flu. It was a swine flu. So that's my bad. So that was my mistake. So there you go. That's where I was wrong. Don't pull a Vosh. Do your research. Read beyond the first paragraph of things. So anyways, to kind of continue on the point, the Spanish flu, once the war was not a thing that was incubating and specifically evolving the virus to become more deadly, it started to evolve into a more benign form, like part of the regular flu season. Why? Because of evolution. Viruses are made of RNA and DNA, which means that they are, at the end of the day, subject to the selection pressures of evolution. All of these variants are mutations of its genetic code, which is basically the engine of all evolution. So, what does that mean? Well, the optimal strategy for a virus is to spread. And the most successfully spreading viruses, the ones that are the most successful in the human population, are the ones that make you as mildly ill as possible, because when you are mildly ill, you basically don't isolate yourself. You spend time with other people and spread the virus. Like the common cold, for example, is one of the most successful viruses on Earth, because we can't kill it And we usually don't get so sick that we take time off work, although we really should. And so, COVID is a new virus for our immune system. Our body isn't able to. Our body doesn't have anything even closely resembling COVID in our immune cells, and that's why it's hitting us so hard. Because you think about it, just like how the indigenous people in 1492, when they encountered old world diseases, they didn't have an immune system that was prepared for the germs being brought over by Columbus. So basically, the entire planet didn't have the immune system to handle this new coronavirus. And that's why it's spreading and making people so sick. Now that we're vaccinated, now that we're developing more vaccines, now that a good percentage of the population have either been vaccinated or gotten it already, and our immune systems are getting more and more resilient to its attacks. Furthermore, the selection pressure for COVID variants, right now the most prevalent variant is the Delta variant. The Delta variant, the Delta variant is very successful because it's so virulent. If Omicron pans out to be, as we were reading in this article, to be a less deadly version of COVID, something that makes you sick but not makes you die or have long-term disease or anything like that, then we get into something interesting, which is that if it is more virulent and it makes people less sick, which means that they're more likely to not self-isolate and things like that, or be put in quarantine, then it's more likely to spread. And if it can overcome the Delta variant in being the dominant strain of COVID in the population, then we may be in a situation where we are in a post-pandemic situation. This is because the virus would not be deadly. It would just be inconvenient, much like the common cold, or more likely something akin to the flu, which the flu does still incapacitate and kill people every year. This is why you should get your flu shot. But it is to a much lower degree than COVID is doing to our population now. That would be fucking amazing if a less deadly, less intense variant then took over. Because at this point, we are not at a point where our vaccines are we're at no point where we're going to be able to eradicate this virus. We are far past that belief now. There is basically no chance that we're ever going to get COVID eradicated. We have added a new endemic disease to our endemic disease repertoire. So now it's just really the only way forward is for it to mutate into something that's less deadly but more contagious that can really spread. That's really the future. And if Omicron does that, which there's very, very, very scant reports, so obviously we're gonna have to wait to have anything definitive. But this could be good news. This could be the beginning of the end of the pandemic as it is right now. We could just go back to having a yearly pandemic with like we do with the flu. Ugh. Also, Ancient Aliens, the shows is a joke and the theory is racist. This is true. Do anti-vaxxers take the flu shot? I imagine not. There are people who got the COVID vaccine who probably didn't get the what's it called, the flu shot. So if we tried to kill Omicron, it would make the virus more deadly due to evolution. We'll see. If it's indeed a less deadly strain of COVID and vaccine resistant, we probably should still develop a vaccine, but through natural selection, it's going to outpace Delta, and in that case will result in the virus. Like I don't think we have enough capacity to really stop this variant in its tracks. We have learned that now. We really can't do lockdowns and vaccines to get rid of the virus. We just can't. There's just far too much capitalism for us to manage. Capitalism basically just dismantled all the state's capacities to do anything of any actual significance. So we're just, it just got worse and worse and worse. And so our really only way out is for it to mutate into another form and then sort of, hopefully, move on. And yeah, so we will we'll see what happens after this, but who knows what this will look like. And also, another thing that is a little bit of an interesting thing to speak about when it comes to the Omicron variant is that it was declared, it was reported to the WHO 6 days ago, and already everybody knows about it. There's been so much study, like the infrastructure set up to track COVID's mutations and to develop vaccines. Like the CEO of Moderna said that they'll probably have a vaccine for this new variant developed by early 2022. Like the speed in which we were able to track this mutation, find where it has spread, and even start developing vaccines for it is quite impressive. And that's all stuff that's been set up since the start of the pandemic. And now, this is less optimistic because, we have short memories. But hopefully if we keep something like this alive, that in the future, pandemic response will be a lot smarter. Because this won't be the last pandemic. But unfortunately, it'll take a couple years after the pandemic for, for governments to start cutting funding to their pandemic response programs, and then we'll just end up in the same situation we are now, because we literally never learn lessons, is the thing. So that's the Omicron story. That's how I feel about the Omicron variant, and yeah, who knows? Who knows? A lot can happen, obviously. The next story we got here is about Barbados. So this is some very good news. Rihanna was present at this event, but yeah, Barbados has officially abandoned the monarchy. How about that? Let's see what's going on here. I don't know the details about this, but it seems like pretty good news. I think that's Rihanna. So I think Rihanna's from Barbados.
On behalf of a grateful nation, but an even prouder people, we therefore present to you the designee for National Hero of Barbados, Ambassador Robin Rihanna Fenty. May you continue to shine like a diamond and bring honor to your nation by your words, by your actions, and to do credit wherever you shall go. God bless you, my dear. Thank you.
All right, I want to see this. This is good news. Or is that it? Oh, that's it. That's just them giving an honor to Rihanna. Okay, whatever. Okay. But look at this. In San Juan, Puerto Rico, Barbados stopped pledging allegiance to Queen Elizabeth II on Tuesday as it shed another of its vestige of its colonial past and became a republic for the first time in history. Woo! Good job, Barbados. I have already submitted the story to Positive Leftist News for December, so... yeah. Apparently Prince Charles was there. Isn't that great? Isn't it great to watch that Prince Charles had to watch them be like, hey, we done with you now? Yeah, Barbados officially became a republic with screens set up across the island so people could watch the event that featured an orchestra with more than 100 steel pan players and numerous This is beautiful. Exciting messages from Bahans living in the U.S., Canada, and abroad. Independence Day. God damn. It's beautiful. Canada should do the same thing. I agree. I would be very happy if Canada does the same thing. It's looking like, I am almost half expecting that the Queen is dead right now. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Queen has like gone into reclusion and like is transitioning to a quote new phase starting in February, which is just like, I think she's dead, and I think they just don't want the bad news to show up. So that's like if the Queen dies, I have a feeling that you're going to see a lot more of this happen. Like, I don't know if I'm very curious about whether the institution of the monarchy is really as strong as just the specifically the power of Queen Elizabeth herself, and if when she is exposed to be dead in February, then when she's exposed to be dead in February, maybe then we will find out some more about like what we'll see if Canada will stick around with it or what other things. Wait, what's this February thing? So the Queen has not been seen in public in a little while, and the government or the royal family has basically said that she's not going to make any public appearances until February, and in which case they're going to update the world. They're going to update people on the on a what is called new phase of Queen Elizabeth's life, and just like all of that makes me think that she's dead, but the British economy is currently in fucking shambles, and so they don't want anything else to further jostle the economic system. So they're like waiting till February to announce that the Queen is dead. That's my theory. Yeah, the new phase is dead. But then, like, we have to figure out what to do, cause I feel like a lot of our monarchies, a lot of the constitutional monarchies would have a harder time getting used to, like, King Charles or something like that. She was seen in public, like, a week ago. All right, let's see this. Let's check on Queen Elizabeth news, shall we? Okay. All the stories are, if you just Google Queen Elizabeth news, all of it's about friggin' Barbados dropping her. That is good news. This is good times. Let's see. They're building the Queen to replace her ETA. It's a robot. What's funny about that is, do you guys remember The Great Mouse Detective where the Queen was a robot? Queen Elizabeth is sending her regards. Oh, to Barbados, the country. The Queen 95 was removed as head of state. Okay. On this significant occasion, and your assumption of office as the first president of Barbados, I extend my gratitude to you and all Barbadians. Oh boy, so it's just some generic line. But, Ah. But has she been seen in public? Let's see. Alright, 2 weeks ago, on Remembrance Day, she was seen in public. Okay. I don't know. I don't know. Their weekend at Burning the Queen. Yeah, you remember when freaking Prince Philip died and they took him out of the hospital and it was like so obvious that he was dead and they were like, they just drove. They just like kept driving. Anyone remember this? Like these like photos of King Charles, like or no, sorry, Prince Philip. Prince Philip is what I meant. They actually drove him while dead. He was alive then. Okay, yeah. But, alright. He wasn't that alive. Let's be honest. Like, let's see. Like these ones here. Like, that guy is like, 25% alive at best. I'm not dead. The far less conspiratorial, more logical answer is that she's getting close. Yeah. She's 95. It also could just be that she's going to not do public appearances because she's 95 and her health is declining. That could be a thing. Maybe, oh man, like darkest timeline scenario is that she like abdicates and gives the throne to Charles to fill in her stead, but she would never do that because I think that she's literally just alive through pure spite to make sure that her son does not become king. Because she hates him so much. Why does she hate him? He's been a huge embarrassment for the throne. He got in a really big scandal in the 90s, 80s, where he was basically cheating on his wife. And he has, when he was young, he also got like, he had a very unpleasant relationship with the throne. Like he very much did not like their thing. The other thing, too, is that first Charles was beheaded, the second one was a decadent party animal. The other thing, too, is that he may actually change his name. Many of the kings of England changed their names. Queen Elizabeth was an exception on that front. He wouldn't go by Prince Charles, or he wouldn't go by King Charles. King Charles III is a cursed name, I think, in British history. But I do think that a lot of support for the monarchy in sort of the former British colonies, like Canada, for example, is more tied to Queen Elizabeth than the actual institution of the throne. And when she dies, I have a feeling that it's the least we'll start having conversations. Anyways, good on you, Barbados. You fucking did it. I hope more people follow in your stead. Alright, so this is an article that I'm going to read. This was brought to my attention about, let's see what this looks like. So this is called Wall Street's Takeover of Nature Advances with Launch of New Asset Class. So let's see what this is all about. But somebody passed this article to me earlier today, and I want to take a look. A project of the multilateral development banking system, the Rockefeller Foundation, and the New York Stock Exchange recently created a new asset class that will put not just the natural world, but the processes underpinning all life up for sale under the guise of promoting sustainability. Oh boy. That's ominous. It's fucking horrifying. Last month, the New York Stock Exchange announced it had developed a new asset class and accompanying listing vehicle meant, quote, to preserve and restore the natural assets that ultimately underpin the ability for there to be life on Earth. Called a Natural Asset Company, or an NAC, the vehicle will allow for the formation of specialized corporations that, quote, hold the rights to the ecosystem services provided by a given chunk of land, services like carbon sequestration or clean water. These NACs will then maintain, manage, and grow the natural assets they commodify, with the end of the goal of maximizing the aspect of that natural asset that are deemed by the company to be profitable. Though described as acting like, quote, any other entity on the NYSE, it is alleged that the NACs will use the funds to preserve a rainforest or undertake other conservation efforts like changing a farm's conventional agriculture practices. Yet, as explained towards the end of this article, even the creators of NACs admit that their ultimate goal is to extract near infinite profits from the natural processes they seek to quantify and then monetize. Oh boy. NYSE COO Michael Blogrund alluded to this when he said the following regarding to the launch of NACs. Our hope is that owning a natural asset company is going to be a way that an increasingly broad range of investors have the ability to invest in something that's intrinsically valuable, but up to this point was excluded from the financial markets. So they're going to try to financialize the life support systems of the planet and turn it into a stock market in order to save the planet. Holy fucking shit. This is terrifying. What's it called? At least it's like the most overt example of capitalist enclosure I think I've ever seen. It's literally just putting borders around the like life support system of the planet and then being like, I'm going to sell this now. Or it's completely fucking meaningless and this is just some like, PR project, in which case this is like a fucking NFT thing or whatever. Can you link the article? I'd like to send it to someone. Sure. Framed with the lofty talk of sustainability and conservation, media reports in the move and outlets like Fortune couldn't avoid noting that NACs open the doors to, quote, a new form of sustainable investment, which, quote, has enthralled the likes of BlackRock CEO Larry Fink over the past several years, even though there remain big unanswered questions about it. Fink, one of the world's most powerful financial oligarchs, is and has long been a corporate raider, not an environmentalist, and his excitement about NAC should give even its most enthusiastic proponents pause if this endeavor was really about advancing conservation as is being claimed. How to create an NAC? All right, let's do this. The creation and launch of NACs has been 2 years in the making and saw the NYSE team up with the Intrinsic Exchange Group, in which the NYSE itself holds a minority stake. The IEG's three investors are the Inter-American Development Fund, Inter-American Development Bank, the Latin America-focused branch of the multilateral development banking system, oh boy, that imposes neoliberal and neocolonialist agendas through debt entrapment, the Rockefeller Foundation, the foundation of the American oligarch dynasty whose activities have long been highly enmeshed with Wall Street, and Aberdare Ventures, a venture capital firm chiefly focused on the digital healthcare space. Notably, the IADB and the Rockefeller Foundation are closely tied to the related pushes for central bank digital currencies and biometric digital IDs. Oh, fun. The IEG's mission focuses on, quote, pioneering a new asset class based on natural assets and the mechanisms to convert them into financial capital. These assets, the IEG states, make life on Earth possible and enjoyable. They include biological systems that provide clean air, water, foods, medicine, a stable climate, human health, and societal potential. Put differently, NACs will not only allow ecosystems to become financial assets, but the rights to, quote, ecosystem services or the benefits people receive from nature as well. These include food production, tourism, clean water, biodiversity, pollination, carbon sequestration, and much more. Oh, cool, they're just privatizing nature. Fun. That's basically the story of capitalism, is just drawing fences around nature and saying mine. But holy shit, is this explicit. IEG is currently partnering with Costa Rica's government to pilot its NAC efforts within that country. Costa Rica's Minister of Environment and Energy, Andrea Mesa Murillo, has claimed that the pilot project with IEG, quote, will deepen economic analyses of giving nature its economic value, as well as to continue mobilizing financial flows of to conservation. So I think I'm getting where this comes from. So not that I agree with it. I think I just like the line of thinking. One of the reasons that a lot of people think that that capitalism, global capitalism, has not been able to handle climate change is because of what's called externalities, i.e., if you capturing your own carbon or moving to a environmentally friendly form of production, that is expensive, but just dumping your carbon dioxide into the air where you don't have to pay for it to get cleaned, that's an externality. That's cheap, and everybody does it. You just push the costs of handling these kinds of things onto other people. So my guess is that they're trying to find a way to find the financial worth of maintaining our ecosystem, and then if you can give it a price, then there is an incentive to keep investing in keeping the environment safe and sound, which would not work at all. But I think that's what they're going for, and it is just neoliberal brain at its peak. All right. With NACs, the NYSE and IEG are now putting the totality of nature up for sale. While they assert that doing so will, quote, transform our economy to one that's more equitable, resilient, and sustainable, it's clear that the coming owners of nature and natural processes will be the only beneficiaries. Per the IEG, NACs first begin with the identification of a natural asset, such as a forest or lake, which is then quantified using specific approaches. Such protocols have already been developed by related groups like the Capitals Coalition, which is partnered with several of IEG's partners, as well as the World Economic Forum and various coalitions of multinational corporations. Hey, thank you, Good Morty, for the follow. Wait, you weren't following already? That's wild. Then an NAC is created, and the structure of the company decides who has the right to that natural asset's productivity, as well as the rights to decide how that natural asset is managed and governed. Lastly, an NAC is converted into financial capital by launching an initial public offering on a stock exchange. Like the NYSE, the last stage generates capital to manage the natural asset, and the fluctuation of its price in the stock market signals the value of its natural capital. Oh boy. Capitalism at its fucking peak. We need to find out how much the ecosystem is actually worth, so if we put it on the stock market, then we'll know what its actual value is. Because anything that Elon Musk has done in the last 5 years has convinced us that the stock market is a logical thing that makes sense and follows the actual value of things. Oh boy, okay. However, the NAC and its employees, directors, and owners are not necessarily the owners of the natural asset itself following the final step. Indeed, as IEG notes, the NAC is merely the issuer, while the potential buyers of the natural asset the NAC represents can include institutional investors, private investors, individuals and institutions, corporations, sovereign wealth funds, and multilateral development banks. Thus, asset management firms that essentially already own much of the world, like BlackRock, could thus become owners of soon-to-be monetized natural processes, natural resources, and the very foundation of natural life itself. Hey, thank you for the follow, Weird Blue Desert Thing. Very good name. Both the NYSE and the IEG have marketed this new investment vehicle as being aimed at generating funds that will go back to conservation or sustainability efforts. However, on the IEG's website, it notes that the goal is really endless profit from natural processes and ecosystems that were previously deemed to be part of, quote, the commons, i.e. natural cultural resources accessible to all members of society through natural materials such as air, water, and a habitable earth. Per the IEG, as the natural asset prospers, providing a steady or increasing flow of ecosystem services. Oh my god, Guys, this is the worst fucking bigram I think I've ever seen in my life. This hurts. Ecosystem services. Okay. The company equity should appreciate according to providing investment returns. Shareholders and investors in the company through secondary officers take profit by selling shares. These sales can be gauged to reflect the increase in capital beyond the stock, roughly in line with its profitability, creating cash flow based on the health of the company and its assets. Researcher and journalist Cory Morningstar has strongly disagreed with the approach taken by the NYSE/IEG and views the NACs as a system that will only exacerbate the corporate predation of nature. Despite claims to the contrary, Morningstar has described NACs as Rockefeller et al., letting the markets dictate what in nature has value and what does not. Yet, it's not for capitalist institutions and global finance to decide what life has value. Ecosystems are not assets. Biological communities exist for their own purposes, not ours. What is this system called? This is a thing where the New York Stock Exchange is adding a sort of like environmental asset stock market where different like lakes and forests and ecological things can be turned into assets which can then appreciate in value. That's the idea. It's terrifying. A new way to loot. Oh boy, this is hard to look at. The ultimate goal of NACs is not sustainability or conservation, it's the financialization of nature, i.e. turning nature into a commodity that can be used to keep the current corrupt Wall Street economy booming under the guise of protecting the environment and preventing its further degradation. Indeed, IEG makes this clear when they note that, quote, the opportunity of NACs lies not in their potential to improve environmental well-being or sustainability, but in the size of this new asset class, which they term nature's economy. Okay. That is the second fucking bigram that has just made me want to fucking vomix. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, like just one bit. Indeed, while the asset classes of the current economy are valued at approximately $512 trillion, the assets classes unlocked by NACs are significantly larger at $4,000 trillion, i.e. $4 quadrillion. Thus, NACs open up a new feeding ground for predatory Wall Street banks and financial institutions that will allow them not just to dominate the human economy, but the entire natural world. In the world currently being constructed by these and related entities, where even freedom is being reframed as not a right but a service. The natural processes on which life depends are similarly being reframed as assets, which will have owners. Those owners will ultimately have the right in this system to dictate who gets access to clean water, to clean air, to nature itself, and at what cost. According to Cory Morningstar, one of the other aims of creating nature's economy and neatly packaging it for Wall Street via NACs is to drastically advance massive land grab efforts made by Wall Street and the oligarch class in recent years. This includes recent land grabs made by Wall Street firms as well as billionaire philanthropists like Bill Gates during the COVID crisis. However, the land grabs facilitated through the development of NACs will largely target indigenous communities in the developing world. As Morningstar notes, the public launch of NACs strategically preceded the 15th meeting of the Conference of the Parties in the Convention of Biological Diversity, the biggest biodiversity conference in a decade. Under the pretext of turning 30% of the globe into protected areas, the largest global land grab in history is underway. Built on a foundation of white supremacy, this proposal will displace hundreds of millions, furthering the ongoing genocide of indigenous people. The tragic irony is this. While indigenous peoples represent less than 5% of the global population, they currently support 80% of all biodiversity. IEG, in discussing NACs, tellingly notes that proceeds from an NAC's IPO can be used to the acquisition of more land by its controlling entities or used to boost the budgets or funds by those who receive the capital from the IPO. This is a far cry from the NYSE/IEG sales pitch that NACs are, quote, different because their IPOs will be used to preserve and protect natural areas. The climate change panic that is now rising to take the place of the COVID-19 pandemic will surely be used to savvily market NACs and similar tactics as necessary to save the planet, but rest assured, NACs are not a move to save the planet, but a move to enable the same interests responsible for the current environmental crises to usher in a new era where their predatory exploitation reaches new heights that were previously unimaginable. Holy shit. That was some fucking nightmare fuel, friends. Oh, God. So, privatizing the ecosystem, oh boy. What could possibly go wrong? Whew. God damn it. Hey, thank you. Oh boy, we got some new followers. How far off of a speculative asset for the future worth of a worker's lifetime labor, i.e. slavery with extra steps? Oh God. What's all these new followers? What's going on? Who is behind this? Oh, now I see why. Okay, so I got raided by Thought Slime about a minute ago. Now it all makes sense. Now it makes sense. Well, Mildred's viewers, you just came in on one of the fucking darkest articles we just read about how they're turning this is very much on my on brand for my channel. That the New York Stock Exchange is trying to turn, or is turning, the ecosystem and like places of like, you know, ecological processes into a fucking asset to be traded and speculated upon. Jeez. Is Thought Slime good? Thought Slime V good. I agree. Thought a bunch of right-wingers were coming in. Yeah, I was confused too, but here we are. This is awesome. Well, welcome new people. Welcome friends. So we're going to talk about some news. We were actually just finishing up my section where I kind of like my opening, yeah, halfway through the stream, I'm done my opening monologue, and now we can get into some news beyond the Barbados thing, which is that there was an attack in frickin' Waukesha. I don't know anything about this, and I really want to know what the hell's going on. So, SUV killed 6 people. The driver in SUV killed 6 people and injured 62 others by hitting participants at a Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Oh, God. They have not announced a motive for the attack. They believe the driver acted alone, did not know anyone at the parade. How is it that this is not all over the news? 62 people injured? That's wild. Has the news just been so shitty that, that I'm missing this? Oh boy. I don't know what the story is here. It looks like nobody does. But there might be more of an answer. Domestic violence situation? Oh, that's scary. I have been retreating from the news a bit lately, so maybe that's all it is. All right. The other one, this has been fun, is there's been an update on freaking Jason Kessler, Richard Spencer, and Christopher Cantwell on a lawsuit involving friggin' Charlottesville. So, Signs v. Kessler was a civil lawsuit against various organizers, promoters, and participants in the Unite the Right rally, a white supremacist rally that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia in August of 2017. Yeah. So, there was an update on this recently. But from what I've been told, this has been an absolute shit show of a trial, as you can imagine. With all of those, like, freaking shitty people being the defendants. Anyways, this is the new story that came out, is the verdict. The jury reached a mixed verdict on November 23rd. They deadlocked on the first 2 claims to determine whether the defense had engaged in a federal race-based conspiracy. Jurors found all defendants liable on the 3rd claim of civil conspiracy under Virginia state law. Jurors awarded $500,000 in punitive damages against each individual defendant and $1 million against each organization in relation to that charge. 4th claim, jurors found that all defendants named in the charge had engaged in race-based harassment and violence and awarded $200,000 in punitive charges to each defendant. The final 2 claims only applied to Fields, the perpetrator of the car attack. Jurors found that he was liable for assault and battery and intentional infliction of harm and awarded a total of $12 million in damages against him. Altogether, the damages totaled more than $25 million. Plaintiffs were also awarded various amounts of compensatory damage under several of the claims. Following the verdict, lawyers of the plaintiffs said they intended to try the defendants again on the 2 claims that could not be decided. Meanwhile, Richard Spencer said that he would appeal the judgment, saying that the entire theory of the verdict is fundamentally flawed. Holy shit. They're slapping them with fines? Yo, those are some fucking, death fines, yo. I mean, it was a lawsuit. They were suing them. So, I mean, I don't think this was a criminal, this is a civil lawsuit. It's not a criminal, lawsuit. Oh boy. You know what? Taking $25 million out of the hands of Nazis and giving it to whoever it goes to is good news to me. Why are they calling it awarded? I don't know. I think it's just part of the way that that lawsuits organize themselves, I think. But come on, that's the W. In fact, that is such a W that I'm going to send this to Mexi. Listen, the left doesn't get a lot of wins, so I want to take the W's where we can find them. And this feels like one. Finally, some positive leftist news with Mexi. Ding! They represented themselves in court. Holy crap, what a shit show. That's always like the first sign that you are in an absolute shit show, is when you say you're going to represent yourself. But I could imagine that a Nazi, that Nazis have a pretty hard time finding lawyers that want to represent them. So yeah, there's that. Also, the 3 men who killed Ahmaud Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, in the United States in February 2020 are found guilty of murder and aggravated assault. So, I gotta check on this story. I'm sorry. I think this is a thing. Yeah. 25-year-old black man was murdered in Satilla Shores, a neighborhood in. Been pursued by 3 white residents, Travis and his father. Oh my god. So this isn't a police murder. This is like vigilante. This is sort of like Kyle Rittenhouse, but in another situation. Holy fuck. Well, they're found guilty of malicious murder. That's sort of that's less of a W. That's just solemn. This is like me just like catching up on the week and being like, holy shit, so much news happened this week. He had a duty to submit to their citizen's arrest, and his toenails were long and dirty. Oh my god. That's just, yeah. Oof. Well, I'm glad that at least some justice has been gotten for Ahmaud Arbery. That's, oh man. The random violence against people of color in America is just, it's overwhelming. And there's just so few times when they don't get away with murder that this seems like this is at least something. Yeah, all right. So that's the news this week. I don't know what to take with that, but some good news, some bad news, some bittersweet news. So it is what it is. That's a week. That's a week, everybody. Can you get a link to that NEC article? I posted it earlier, but I can put it up again. All right. So a couple of things that happened to me this week is that my birthday was over the weekend, so that was fun. And my birthday present from my wife was these headphones, because I've been going to the gym a lot lately, and I've been wanting these. These are bone conduction headphones. I've been wanting those really badly, because I find I live in a what's it called? I live in a city that's not very pedestrian friendly, and I have a and also the London, Ontario subreddit is full of people just basically talking about how they want to run over pedestrians and people on bicycles and stuff like that, and like it's becoming more and more deadly to be a pedestrian because more, like, I don't know, drivers just seem entitled to kill people more often these days. So I really wanted some bone conduction headphones so that I could actually hear what's going on outside while still listening to stuff. And I needed better headphones because my old headphones were really bad at staying connected to my phone. So that's fun. Yeah. But the other gift I got from my wife, and also thank you for all the HBDs in chat. I appreciate it. So the other thing that I got as a gift is I got an hour in a sensory deprivation tank, which was one of the more amazing therapeutic experiences I've had. So if you guys don't know, a sensory deprivation tank or float therapy is where they put you in this sort of pod, right? And the pod is filled with water that has a whole lot of Epsom salts in it so that it is extremely buoyant. Like extremely buoyant water. And so you float very easily. Furthermore, it's heated to the temperature of your body. So it's 37 degrees Celsius, the water. So so there's that. And then also the pod itself is soundproof and it's pitch black. And so you're basically cut off from all forms of sensory input. And then you're put in there for an hour. My wife did it, tried to do it too, but yeah, she kind of like Laura, you said it was kind of scary. She found it too anxiety creating, so she left because she's got claustrophobia and stuff. But I really enjoyed it, and I had a very the time passed so fast, which I was surprised by because I was worried about just kind of getting bored. How do they keep you from touching the sides? They don't really. That's the thing that there's really they just you try to just keep your body floating in the center and not touch the sides of the pod. But yeah, it felt really good. And where was somebody? There's somebody asking somewhere. Did I see shit? Yes, a little bit. So what happens is that your brain doesn't really like sensory deprivation, and so it always tries to fill nothing with something. And in this case, that's basically it. Basically starts to hallucinate stuff. So the main things, nothing too fancy. I didn't see like fucking dragons or whatever. But what I did see was I saw a you know, like the kind of things that you see when you close your eyes and you put a little bit of pressure on your eyes and you see all sorts of like swirling colors and stuff like that. I saw that. I saw something very similar to that. And as for sounds, I heard stuff that sounded like frying bacon or maybe popcorn, something in that kind of range. Nothing too interesting to write home about. But when I got out of the pod, I was in this absolutely serene state of mind. Like, as a person with ADHD, I was so much more in the moment than I had been in ages, and I just felt like I was just really there, which was just such a nice feeling. The only time I'd ever experienced something like that was when I had been taking bioneurofeedback therapy, and I just felt a lot more, on the ball. And so that was pretty cool. Sensory deprivation and hallucinogenic drugs. There are people who do that. Have I ever used a swivel master? No, I have not. What is that? Bioneural feedback. All right, I'll talk about that. That's actually pretty cool. Swivel Master. What is this? It's potential sticking and loss of hook load on a drill strings by rotating a rubber string without rotation and torque being applied to this. What? Deployed tool that solves sticking loss on drill. Okay, I think this might be a different thing. Master massage equipment, ergonomic swivel saddle rolling. This sounds more like it. It's like a chair? Anyways, bioneural feedback, yes. So bioneural feedback is it's a therapy that there's a psychologist at my university who wanted to experiment on me for ADHD research. Essentially what bioneural feedback is where they attach electrodes to your head. So they would measure your brain waves, right? So you'd have all these electrodes put on your head. They'd measure your brain waves. And the thing about ADHD brains is that it's way too active. All of the things are on. All of the brain waves are, on all the time. It's it's way too much is going on, especially the brain waves that are like alpha and beta waves, which are sort of waves that are that really are only active when you're tired, and you sort of have that when you're tired and you're easily distracted and you can't think straight. That's going on all the time in an ADHD brain. Anyways, so what bioneural feedback therapy is they hook you up to a live reading of your brain waves, and then they have you. They basically hook you up to this program, where essentially what they do is they reverse you, or they give you a reward with a beep, right? They say all right, you want to get a beep. That's what you're looking for, and so you just unconsciously are going you're going to try to get beeps. And so what it does is it sort of to get the beeps, you have to calm down the brain waves in your in the electrodes, right? You have to get your brain waves to calm down. It's not something that you can do consciously. It's just sort of a thing that your brain does by associating the beep with positive feedback. So you sit there and try to get beeps. And, doing that in sessions of 5-10 minutes, your brain starts to learn how to calm down, how to get those waves kind of acting in a more neurotypical fashion. And every time I did a session of that, I felt so much better afterwards. It really helped me out. It was a cool therapy. Okay, so the second thing I got here is what to do with a crappy Ben Shapiro book. So, for my birthday, my friend Yemen got me a couple birthday presents. So that's fun. I got some birthday presents. So this is one that I got. No step on Sneck Gadsden flag, which is definitely going to be some sort of fun, thing at some point, right? Almost Pavlovian training for the brain. Exactly. So, I got that Gadsden flag, but also my friend got me this fucking book, which is Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings by one Ben Shapiro. Which I kind of took a little look at this, and it looks like it's just a collection of his blog posts. Like, all of these are like all of these pages, all of these chapters are like 2 pages long. Not even. Some are like 1 page long. And so I'm like, okay. I have this book of Ben Shapiro articles. And I'm like, all right, if I'm going to end up having this fucking book in my house, I got to think about a way to turn it into content. So that's something that's on my mind. If you have any ideas. When did he publish it? I've not heard of that one. It looks like it's kind of old. Apparently it came out in 2019. So yeah. We'll see where that goes. Eat it? Oh god. Consume book. Step Back is truly the people streamer. Oh god. Burn it like a Yule log. See, the thing is, like, I kind of want to... Like, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm about to take, like, 2 months off of streaming, I would do something where I, like, read it dramatically or respond to it. And, you know, those articles are very short. So you could do a thing responding to and debunking each blog. Yeah. That might be a way for me if I have any time during what's it called? If I have any time during my, like, you know, weird time where I'm, you know, taking care of my son and not sleeping, maybe I can, like, put some content together where I just read these articles and try to, like, talk about them with a friend. That might make some fun content for YouTube. Do it at Ben's house? What? I don't know what you mean. Anyways. Guys, let's get into the questions. We have a lot of questions, and I have taken a lot of time. Read them to your baby and see if he becomes a sociopath. Oh god. No thank you. Alright. So let's talk a little bit about let's answer some questions. I know you guys love questions. Everyone loves questions. So let's do this. First question we got here is from Sam from Texas. Do I think the Chaz can be compared to the Paris or Shanghai Commune? Well, I don't know a whole lot about the Shanghai Commune, but I will say that probably not. The Paris Commune existed in a state when basically the French government was basically in collapse. So the Paris Commune really only existed because there was this, like, opening between when the French government was basically forced to retreat from Paris because the Prussians were coming, and then the beginning of the and then the eventual, like, reclaiming of the city. So now Chaz was more something close to what was that thing called? Was it like the Autonomous Republic of... No, that's not it. The Maidan. Yes, the Maidan. Maidan Square. That's what I was looking for. Which was this during the sort of big protests against the Ukrainian government. There was this, like, autonomously made zone to sort of occupy it and hold it as a form of, like, continuing the protest. While the Paris Commune was trying to build something and hold on to it, the Chaz, I think, was more of a attempt to create a space kind of in, like, the zone of, like, Occupy or anything. It's a very common, like, tactic in American protest culture these days. And obviously, Chaz was a bit of a mess, so there is that too. But I don't think the Chaz, like, nobody in the Chaz was ever planning on, like, making it a permanent, like, independent commune or anything like that. Do I consider states like Mexico, Peru, Bolivia, etc. to be settler states in the same vein as the U.S., Canada, and Australia? They are. It's the racial politics of like Latin American countries is a lot more complicated because of the large mestizo population. But yeah, it's still different. There still are, like in places like Mexico and Bolivia, there are still white elites that have a disproportionate amount of power and control a lot of things. I mean, Bolivia had an entire coup against its indigenous president to put in Janine Áñez, is that her name? Who was basically this like white supremacist, Christian, fascist, like white person. So yeah, it still exists there for sure. I got a question from They See Me Rollin', which is they hatin'. Thank you. Riding Dirty. I know that song. All right, let's see what this says. You put an Islamic spin on it, but last week you and Mia did the thing where you suggested the world would be so much more advanced today if the European Dark Age would have been avoided. That's a popular idea, but I wonder if it overemphasizes how important Europe is to your world history before we, quote, discovered America and started doing colonialism. Like Europe was the backwater for almost all of its history. Even at the height of the Roman Empire, Rome was considerably poorer than India or Han China. If Europe was more connected to the rest of Eurasia in the latter half of the first millennium, it might not have made much of a difference to what was going on in the East. That's not the way that I interpreted the way that I said that about how much more advanced that the world would be if what's it called? The French had lost the Battle of Tours. And basically Muslims had conquered Europe. But it's more that in such a situation that the Islamic world would not have had the same collapse it had when it got invaded by the Mongols. That would be my hope. And that they would that the sort of ideas that were much more focused on academics and scientific progress and law and philosophy would be predominant ideas. All right, the Justice Lords, an alternate universe version of the DCAU Justice League, who decided they needed to take over the world to save it. Would you want to see an anti-capitalist version of the Justice Lords? Like, imagine a story about a superhero team who decide to really help people they need take over the world and force them to stop doing capitalism. Hell yeah. I've almost made that comic. The genetic evidence suggests that around... All right, next question we got here is... The genetic evidence suggests that around 2500 to 2000 BC, the population of Britain were largely replaced by migrants or invaders from the continent. Stonehenge was in use from 3000 to 1500 BC, which means the migrants or invaders must have continued treating Stonehenge as a holy site, even though they displaced the people who'd originally built it. Can you think of another example of something like that in history? Invaders taking over a place and kind of adopting the religious monuments of the people who lived there before. I mean, there are several. For example, the big one that comes to my mind is the pyramids. The pyramids are still highly venerated in their society, even though there are not many ancient Egyptians around anymore, and that the region has been severely Arabized. But that's probably not the best example. The best example I can think of is there's a place in Mexico called Teotihuacan, which was occupied by a group that are just going by the name of the Teotihuacanos. And their society basically collapsed. And then several centuries later, it was found by Nahuatl-speaking people who who thought it was built by giants and started using the temple site for their own religious uses as a sort of pilgrimage place. And so that's a big one. And also the chat is, I'm getting a lot of references to the chat. The Hagia Sophia is also a pretty good example of that, yes. I don't understand how the Q&A thing goes, but I'd be interested in hearing sometime about your favorite historical cat or dog. I have a link for people to submit things. That one I need to think about because I'm trying to think of like an actual historical cat or dog. But I'll put a link to the questions in the stream for submission. All right. So The Owl House, a fantasy cartoon series produced by Disney, was recently canned. Saw an interview from the creator where she said Disney executives had assured the fact that she'd put the main character in a lesbian relationship, i.e. meaning Russia and China won't air the show anymore, had nothing to do with their choice to not renew it for a third season. 1, do you believe that? 2, do you think she believes that, or do you think she just knows accusing Disney of being homophobic and profitable is a very bad career move? I mean, do I believe it? I would believe it. I don't know if it's true because I don't know anything about this cartoon. But, I mean, if it turned out to be true, it would not surprise me in the least. Do you think she just knows accusing Disney of being homophobic for profit is a very bad career move? Yeah, I mean, that is also true. Disney, if you burn a bridge with Disney and you work in the entertainment industry, you're basically done. I don't know anything about The Owl House, so I don't know. I can't speak much of this. Have I seen Star V's? It's one of the only mainstream kids cartoons I can think of that tackler settler colonialism head on. Well, I haven't, but I will tell you that I have a feeling that in the next few years I'm going to be watching a whole lot more cartoons. So definitely Star V's may be one that I watch. I've got, what's it called? I use my dad's Disney Plus subscription, so I feel like there's going to be a lot of content on there for me to watch with my new son. Whew. Star versus the forces of evil. Okay, that makes more sense. All right. So Bad Empanada just put out a video about how the Nazis modeled a lot of their ideology on U.S. American imperialist ideas like manifest destiny and racial segregation. Starts the video by claiming if the Nazi Germanic Empire had somehow survived 250 years, it'd be pretty similar to present-day America. So I think the overall point of the video is valid. Am I right in thinking the claim he makes in that introduction is ridiculous? Like, Nazi Germany and the early U.S. were both societies driven by white supremacy, but aside from that, they seem entirely different to me. I mean, I don't think you're wrong. Well, I don't think he's wrong on this front. Like, Nazi Germany's plans were very much in the vein of, like, maybe it's a bit exaggerated, but Nazi Germany did have, if it had actually been able to go through with its weird projects, which even if they had won the war, we don't know if they would have been able to. But they had ideas of, basically doing manifest destiny to Ukraine and Russia with Germans. And so, yeah, I do think that there would, and give enough time, the genocides that they committed would be put in the past, and people would forget about it, just like we do about our genocides. So I don't think it's the wrongest take in the world, that's for sure. But the part about the Nazis modeling their ideology on U.S. and American imperialism is just, it's not even a speculation. It's fucking true. like Hitler was literally inspired by racial segregation and Manifest Destiny in the United States. He read a whole lot of Westerns when he was a kid, and but also like explicitly, like people, like he had people go to America to learn how they did these things so they could do it back home. Like, yeah, it was. That's not even speculation. And the last question we got here is, so neither of us really believe in conservative religion, but how you defend evolutionary theory against pear-shaped potatoes? I know this is a joke. How do you defend evolutionary theory against pear-shaped potatoes? Man, that boy thick. Look at that. This guy's got a fucking dump truck here. Holy shit. Fucking cakes on this I don't know if evolution could produce an ass that juicy on a potato. But yeah, I have no idea what that means, but hey. And now we've got about 24 minutes left to go. What do we do? What do we talk about? Should probably watch a video. That's fun. What was, there was a video that I kind of hinted I was going to watch later in the stream if we had time. Was the Bad Empanada video? Should we see what this Bad Empanada video is all about? I don't know. I don't really want to give Bad Empanada too much attention these days. He's been kind of unhinged and has basically just picked up a new hobby of just non-stop shit-talking anarchists. So I feel like maybe I'd do something else. Some good content. It's 110 minutes long. Okay, yeah, then that's another thing. Let's see. I should have thought this beforehand. I should probably get some content at the end for if I run out of time after the questions. Maybe that'll be a new thing I add to my notes. Just grab some links that are funny, interesting videos I watched recently. Problem is that I've just been, you know, watching a bunch of videos about RimWorld lately, so go for that. Man, that's the thing is like after the stream is over, what's it called? It's all about RimWorld. You know, watch those little guys do all sorts of stuff. Wow, I really haven't watched anything educational in like ages. This just shows that my brain is an absolute free fall. BI's pre-made videos are still really good. Okay. He's gonna make a video that's just like why I hate anarchists, and it's gonna be like, oh, fun. Okay, whatever. Do you guys see the Ancient Aliens video that Scott put out? That's a good one. Have you guys seen that? I feel like that would be a good one to show you guys because I'm in it, and it's very fun. It's too long to go through the whole thing, but we can skip the ads and sort of go from there. You guys want to do this? You want to do this? In his Carlson interview, Rittenhouse said he plans to attend Arizona State, but how do you feel about progressive groups at that university trying to make his life there so difficult that he drops out? Go for it. I hope he never fucking forgets that he's a murderer. All right. This is a video that I was involved with that is on the channel NerdSync, who is the other half of my podcast. So that's fun. And it's about ancient aliens, which is a thing that I do a podcast about. So let's do this.
This video is sponsored by Magic Spoon. I've been seeing a lot of people hate on the new MCU Eternals film, and don't get me wrong, I certainly have my fair share of critiques. It's long, it's clunky, and it's overly...
By the way, if you haven't, you should subscribe to NerdSync. He's a really good YouTuber. Scott's a very good boy and makes very good videos. And they're very fun.
Reliant on these rambly, sometimes incomprehensible exposition dumps. So it's probably exactly what Jack Kirby would have wanted. The biggest critique that I have is that it's visually boring. I can't think of a scene from this film that stands out as a treat for the eyes. Now, Marvel has often taken the French omelet approach to cinematography, right? Like, if it has even a hint of color, you've done it wrong. But Eternals falls especially flat for me because the source material is this.
I wrote this joke. This is what we like to call in the business a setup.
Vibrant, intricate, and almost unwieldy images represent the raw creative power of Jack Kirby's mind channeled directly into his pencil. Does it always work? No. But a lot of fans seem to praise the comics for the art alone, ignoring the story and basic premise, which is bad. The Eternals comics are bad. But okay, let's back up for a second. How are you doing, you wonderful nerds? Scott here, and throughout the 1940s through the 1960s, seminal comics created...
All right, I don't... let's just go. I don't want to... I was like, should I skip all the comic book stuff? But I think that would subtract from the whole experience. And we're not even going to be able to finish the whole video anyway, so... I will tell you guys where I'm at when we finish the stream, and you guys can pick it up from there, and I'll put a link in the chat.
Jack Kirby helped create some of the most iconic heroes there were, like Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, the X-Men, and the list of characters goes on so long that it literally has its own Wikipedia page. But then in 1970, after suffering year after year of uncredited and sometimes unpaid work, Jack Kirby does the unthinkable. He leaves Marvel Comics to join its main competitor, DC Comics. At DC Comics, Kirby was allowed full reign to do basically whatever he wanted, creating new characters, reinventing storylines for existing characters, and generally just getting weird with it. In comics like The New Gods, he'd tell sprawling, complex narratives of impressively cosmic beings. These comics weren't for everyone, but if you were into it, you were into it. As this Jimmy says right at the top, don't ask. Just buy it. But you see, the problem with telling a grand, complicated saga, as Kirby often wanted to do, is that if a reader fell off and missed even 1 or 2 issues, it would be unbelievably hard for them to jump back on and still understand what's happening. So in 1971, when DC changed the price of their comics from 15 cents to 25 cents, a lot of readers thought, wow, that is a lot of money. I can't buy every comic that I want to buy.
I feel like you could do a similar video to this, but about Stargate. Maybe. I don't know. I will be honest, I've never watched Stargate. I've only ever seen the movie, and that's it.
So some of them, unfortunately, have to fall to the wayside for a little bit here. And eventually, when DC Comics lowered their price back down, it still wasn't enough to get people to want to jump back into these comics. They had missed so many issues, they wouldn't be able to understand what's happening at this point. It would be nearly impossible to keep up with the intricate intergalactic tales that Kirby was weaving. So sales of Kirby's comics diminished, and they never really fully recovered at DC. And because of that, DC Comics kept canceling any new comic book that Jack Kirby would create. I mean, we all remember Jack Kirby's Dingbats of Danger Street. You know, the comic that lasted exactly 1 issue before DC was like, wait, What? So 5 years went on with Kirby at DC, canceled title after canceled title, but eventually Kirby's contract with them was up. Meanwhile, Marvel was awaiting the return of their prodigal son and made him an offer saying that he could write, edit, draw, do anything that he wanted to do if he came back to them. Reportedly, Kirby felt incredibly depressed that the only legitimate two options that he could take to further his career were for the two biggest companies in this space that both devalued and demoralized him. But he did ultimately decide to return to Marvel in 1975, and it's under this context specifically that Jack Kirby wrote The Eternals. In a nutshell, the Eternals comic is about how a race of cosmic beings known as the Celestials came to Earth and experimented on the life there. In their experiments, they created Eternals, cool things, deviants, bad things, and humans, also bad things. As their name suggests, the Eternals don't die normal deaths typically and can basically live on forever and ever, which is what they've been doing, fighting the deviants for thousands of years. And because the Eternals have cool powers, are hard to kill, and fight epic battles, onlooking humans have been inspired by their feats and stories and have crafted entire mythologies around them. Most of them can be found in Greek mythology like Circe, Icarus, Athena, and Ajax, with the occasional Roman or Sumerian myths like Makari and Gilgamesh, respectively. The comic series opens with the Celestials making their rounds to visit Earth and see what's up. They've not been around for a couple millennia, so just a few things have changed. Icarus, who's been in hiding as a human named Ike Harris, which is, you can do better than that. He has to reunite with the rest of the Eternals to not only fight off the deviants, who are back on the attack, but also defend Earth from Ereshkigal, the big red Celestial, who will judge Earth to see if the planet is worthy of continuing to spin on, or if it's time to treat Earth like a bad haircut. Yeah, just get rid of it all. Start fresh. I constantly have had bad haircuts in the past, which is why I look like this now. If Kirby's work on the New Gods over at DC Comics was a story about the old gods falling and...
Man, so I gotta say, one of the things about this, so I worked with Scott on this video pretty closely, and the speed in which this video came together, like we had been batting around ideas for this video for like a better part of a year, ever since we made the podcast, basically. Ever since we thought of the podcast, which was like back in March, we've been developing, we were like, oh, well, the Eternals would be a good springboard into this Ancient Alien stuff. And then we had like meetings about it, and we hashed out the script, and like the video was made in like a couple weeks. It's absolutely wild. Scott is so good at this.
New ones coming up to take their place, then Eternals was a spiritual successor to it, asking the question, what if the original gods, the Celestials in this case, what if they returned? And you can kind of see exactly how Kirby was feeling about his own career path in this moment. I mean, Jack Kirby helps build Marvel, leaves Marvel, and then comes back to Marvel to write a story about gods returning to a world they helped create. And even though these gods had initially inspired others and had been the subject of praise and adoration once before, the world has seemingly moved on and forgotten about them. What I'm saying is, it's not hard to see why Jack Kirby was inspired to tell this story specifically, given his personal life experiences. He was never the most subtle writer when it came to hiding the things that inspired his work. Heck, one of the initial titles for the series was going to be Return of the Gods. They even mocked up an entire cover for it, ready
Here we go.
to hit print, but they rapidly had to change course and come up with a totally different name. See if you can spot why. This is the rejected cover. Notice anything familiar about it? If you said no, then good. You've lived a normal, naive life, and I can trust you. You see, this textural logo on the cover here was just a little too similar to the cover of a book that came out just a couple years earlier. A book that has left a massive impact on the world that is still being felt to this day. Is it a good impact? What? So before we dive into some historical drama, I have to give a massive shout out to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. Emily, so go check it out, link in the video. Okay, so Eric von Daniken is a Swiss author who struck surprise gold with his book.
Here we go. This is the guy. This is the Ancient Aliens guy.
Chariots of the Gods? In 1968. In this book, von Daniken outlined a hypothesis that, looking at technology and mythology of ancient civilizations, there appears to be a pattern indicating that extraterrestrials came to visit humans in the past. These ancient astronauts performed miracles using advanced technology wildly beyond the comprehension of humans at the time. In our misunderstandings by our feeble minds, we mistook these alien visitors for gods and created entire myths and cultures centered around them. Von Daniken gave various examples, from the creation and implementation of the Egyptian pyramids to the mysteries surrounding the stone heads of Easter Island. And he didn't stop at technological wonders. He claimed to see the influence of aliens in human art and religious scripture, scripture, such as the genuinely bizarre vision recounted by the biblical prophet Ezekiel, where he witnessed.
We did an episode on this on the prophet Ezekiel, and we got Andrew Mark Henry from Religion for Breakfast on as a guest. It was really good.
Strange creatures descending from a brightly lit cloud of smoke that Von Daniken theorizes was Ezekiel's interpretations of aliens riding around in their spacecraft, making for the strangest episode of VeggieTales I've ever seen.
Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of here. Ezekiel saw the wheel way in the middle of here.
Chariots of the Gods is, to say the least, controversial. Academics have dismissed its claims as poorly thought out and making wild leaps of logic. It's also been accused of plagiarizing from works of fiction, but that hasn't stopped this book or even the subsequent books that Von Daniken.
I love that. What's it called? Chariots of the Gods has been, like a lot of stuff from Chariots of the Gods, especially the stuff to do with the Anunnaki and stuff like that, has been plagiarized pretty heavily from H.P. Lovecraft.
Wrote from becoming significant bestsellers and inspiring an
Why are ancient aliens so terrified of white people? I don't know. It's very confusing.
entire community of ancient astronaut theorists.
I didn't do that effect. That's all Scott. Scott knows how to make videos pretty. I do not. I don't know if you've seen Step Back videos, but they're not exactly like... The editing is not the crowning part of it, is what I'll say.
That is still prevalent today. Think about it. When the book came out in the late 60s, humans were just about to land on the moon. People were interested in space and what lay out there. Furthermore, a generation of young baby boomers in the...
This section I wrote. I wrote several sections for this video. This one is straight up my words.
West was amidst a significant cultural shift. People were interested in exploring new and esoteric ways of understanding the world. It led to a resurgence of spiritualism and appropriated spiritual understandings of the cosmos, often called the New Age movement. And Chariots...
Should I make a New Age movement video? I have a feeling it might get me in trouble because my mom was part of the New Age movement. But I kind of want to...
of the gods? Well, New Agers found Von Daniken's ideas fascinating. And on top of that, the culture of studying UFO sightings was becoming more and more prominent. Are we truly alone in this universe? Or will we ever find alien life out there someday? Or perhaps they've already found us millennia ago. These ideas spread like wildfire in American culture during the 70s, even inspiring a series of articles in the National Exaggerator.
You're kidding! No way!
It even prompted NBC to release a one-hour special in 1973 called In Search of Ancient Astronauts, narrated by Rod Serling of The Twilight Zone.
If we accept the premise that beings from another civilization visited here ages ago, then some of the mysteries of our past take on a new and startling light. We have only fragments. But look up into the sky, some clear...
More like the Q-Age movement these days. Exactly. That's what makes it interesting. I did in an episode of It's Probably Not Aliens, which is going to come out like forever from now, I did an entire talk about how there's this weird coalescence, like this weird overlap between like New Age spiritualist, spiritual guru type people and neo-Nazis and fascists, and how like some people got confused by like spiritual like Instagram people getting into QAnon, but like if you know about this esoteric connection between like Nazis and the New Age movement, it actually makes sense.
Starlit night, and allow yourself the freedom to wonder.
And it wasn't long until other authors got in on the fun that Von Daniken was having. In 1976, Russian-American author Zecharia Sitchin released The 12th Planet, which claimed that a group of deities from ancient...
It's the episode on the Anunnaki, and this specific guy is the one that what's it called? That I get into that.
Mesopotamian texts known as the Anunnaki were actually an advanced extraterrestrial species who came to Earth and created humans through genetic experimentation. And hey, doesn't that sound familiar? And look, I know references to the Anunnaki because of Scooby-Doo lore, of all things.
The Anunnaki have a great history of helping humans, but we have no physical form and must inhabit animals. This is why some animals, our descendants, can talk and others cannot.
But this video is about Eternals, so we're talking. It sounds like they're talking about the Celestials. 1976 was the same year that Jack Kirby's Eternals hit the stands, and we can see more than a few influences that both Von Daniken and Sitchin had on this comic series. Continuing with the Anunnaki angle, Sitchin...
What are we watching? This is a video on Ancient Aliens made by NerdSync that I was involved in the making of. The Nazca lines have tire track lines all over them because there was a brief period after Chariots of the Gods being published when the area was declared a closed historical site where hippies kept driving there. It was like 50 years ago. But the tracks are still there for the same reason the lines are. Yep. Yeah, it's been... The Nazca lines have gotten heavily damaged by people recently. Somebody from the Dakar rally actually ruined a bunch of it.
Claimed that the Anunnaki were forced to temporarily leave the planet and orbit around Earth after Antarctic glaciers started melting, which caused the Great Flood. In issue number 2 of Eternals, it's explained that the Deviants challenged the Celestials to a battle, and the Celestials won by using their advanced technology, conjuring up tidal waves the size of mountains that drowned the land and all that lived upon it. Meanwhile, the Eternals built a big boat to keep humans and animals safe from this Great Flood. Hey, look, Jack Kirby, you can make homages all you want, but I recognize the plot of Evan Almighty when I see it. The Celestials also battled the Deviants with what appears to be massive nuclear weaponry. As it's described in the comic, quote, its terrible power shook the world. Its fires leapt from one continent, it says leaped, but it should be leapt, from one continent to another, and turned them into blazing suns. And some ancient astronaut theorists do genuinely believe that wars were fought with nuclear weapons thousands and thousands of years ago. There are descriptions of people affected by objects known as Brahma weapons in the Bhagavad Gita, whose explosions were said to be brighter than 1,000 suns, setting entire swaths of land on fire. Coincidentally, although some ancient astronaut theorists would probably say it's definitely not a coincidence, the Bhagavad Gita was famously quoted by Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer after the United States set off the first nuclear bomb tests.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
All of this is just barely scratching the surface, but you can see the hallmarks of ancient astronaut theory present in Jack Kirby's Eternals. You just take an ancient text or artifact or landmark and you ask the simple question, but what if it was aliens, though? I mean, it's spelled out right from the start of this series. Mythology is just outer space technology translated in terms that humans can understand. Like, the Eternals opens in an ancient...
I also got to comment and say that I think this is just me. Scott and I have a very good working relationship, and I always am, because we did another video together on nuclear weapons and Superman, and it's also very good. When we work together on stuff, it ends up being very good.
Incan city, where there are numerous grand statues depicting the Celestials. Alien visitors with highly advanced technology rendered in the stylings of Incan carvings. They even discovered technology that was far more advanced than what the Inca people should have been capable of at the time. Icarus explains that the revelation they are uncovering is, quote, the true story of all which has gone before. We are not alone in this universe. We never were. And cultures from the past, like what's represented in this story, left pieces of the puzzle for us to put together.
I want to get to
and you know that final showdown of Kirby's run
this
ends in the only place it ever could, a pyramid. People are nuts about those big triangles. So, from the outset, undeniably so, the entire premise of Jack Kirby's Eternals was based on this ancient astronaut theory that Von Daniken and others were peddling at this time. That's why this initial comic book cover design was rejected by Marvel's legal team. They were worried that the logo and the basic premise of the comic would be way too close to Von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods and open them up to lawsuits. Now, according to longtime Kirby collaborator and author of Kirby King of Comics, Mark Evan Yeh, I'm going to keep saying it that way because it sounds fancy, it was unclear if Jack Kirby ever really bought into these conspiracy theories.
We're almost
Quote, it was
there.
a speculation that had long interested Jack, even if he didn't accept it as probable. In a playful mood, he'd argue, can you prove that it couldn't have happened that way?
I'm a guy who lives with a lot of questions. I say, what's out there? Who's got the answers? I sure would like to hear the ultimate one, but I haven't yet.
And you know what? Any other day, I would willingly dive down into the rabbit hole of ancient astronaut theory to try and answer Jack's question, but I am a little too impressionable. Plus, my conspiracy days are over after that whole Bob Ross thing. So to make my job easier, I called upon my friend, fellow YouTuber, and
that's me,
actual historian Tristan Johnson from Step Back History to help me explain why ancient astronaut theory is so garbage and why Jack Kirby should feel bad for basing an entire comic book series around it. Hey, Tristan, Scott here, really quickly. Are you familiar with the Eternals comics? It's basically this idea in Marvel that aliens visited Earth ages ago and inspired them with their presence and their advanced technology.
Ancient astronauts? You mean like ancient aliens, like the show on the History Channel? Come on, Scott. You're better than this. No historian or archaeologist takes anything that's said on that show seriously. It's always working backwards from a conclusion and making all sorts of great leaps in logic to fit history into their preconceived notion. Trust me, if there was evidence that was falsifiable that proved that there were aliens who visited Earth in the past and you discovered it, you would be the most famous archaeologist on Earth. You'd have basically made your career. The evidence that's usually put forward is either an extreme stretch of logic or it's just a hoax. I'd actually like sometime to do like a podcast or something where I debunk each of these theories one by one.
I'm sorry. Hi, Sparta. Tristan, are you telling me that there's an entire series about this concept? And it's on the reputable History Channel?
No. Scott, that's not what I wanted you to get out of this. Okay. I think that's a good place to stop, because it's also 9 o'clock. But, hey, John, thank you for the $2 super chat. Hey, who would you like to do a crossover with? Ooh. Oh, man. There are so many good YouTubers that I would like to work with. So many that are really, like... There's some YouTubers that I, like, have a really good relationship with, like, professionally, but our channels just don't cross over in a really good way. Like, the two people who run 12 Tone, they're really good friends of mine. They've helped me out so much. I'd also love to have a part in a Trade the Explainer video. That would be really fun. Those come out. A while ago, I read a sci-fi novel set thousands of years after an apocalyptic event destroyed our society. It's mentioned that archaeologists are constantly finding remnants of our society, trying to figure out what it is for a major focus of their science. Nationalists is true, that's what it would be like. Yeah, pretty much. All right, I'm going to put a link in the chat to this moment. So you guys, if you are interested in watching the rest of the video, there's a link in the chat. It should take you right to the moment that we left off here, which is at 20 minutes and 25 seconds. But also, this is the end of the stream. So let's see who we should raid. Ooh. Left Flank Vets just started, so let's go with them. Yeah, they're starting soon. All right, everybody. I'll be back maybe on Thursday. We're working that out. But yeah, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and yeah, 3 more to go. Yeah, 5 seconds. All right. Have a good night, everybody.